Howdy, everyone. Welcome in. TexAgs Rewind presented by Yeti. Had a fun show today. First of 3 guest hosts filling in for David. We'll have Dalton Hughes tomorrow and Richard Zane on Friday. On the show today, we had OB, of course. I got to sit down for my first go hour with him. Talked a little bit of college football, favorite college towns, all that good stuff. John Harris of Football Takeover and the Houston Texans called in. He's on his way to Big 12 Media Days. Caroline Fenton talking SEC football and a little recruiting update from TexAgs senior recruiting analyst Jason Howell. All that and more on that TexAgs Rewind presented by Yeti. So Pete Futak for college football news. He's David's buddy, comes on the show quite frequently. Put out his projections for A&M and whatnot for the 2023 season, and he gives key games, win totals, top 10 players, all that good stuff. So we'll kind of work our way through the list, and I'll just want to know what you think. So Start off with that key game. He lists his as Arkansas.
I agree.
You agree with that?
Yeah. Normally I'd say Mississippi State, because if you'll go back and you'll look at how A&M does against Mississippi State, that kind of reflects how the season goes. But Arkansas's earlier in the season, if you win that, I think it's the first game that I look at on that schedule. And I think I can't say that A&M necessarily should win. I think they're probably going to be favored, but New Mexico, you're going to win that game. Miami, you'll win unless you give it away. ULM, you're going to win that one. Auburn, you're going to win it unless you give it away, I think.
Yeah.
Arkansas, if you play well and they play well, you're going to win. If you play average and they play well, you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So, I could see that.
Yeah, my pick for that would be Auburn. I'm kind of stealing Brendan Leone's answer. I've heard him give it a couple times, but, just with the taste left from last year's Auburn game on the Plains, I guess I should say, you figured maybe they got a little bit something going into that one. Plus, it's the first SEC game. You got Hugh Freeze, so you're not really sure what to expect. You seem to think that they should be beatable.
Oh, I think they'll be better offensively, even though Brian Hart's is not a bad offensive coach. The thing that's different this year is, first of all, I don't think A&M's offense is going to be the train wreck that it was most of last year. But also, Auburn was actually pretty decent on defense last year. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, they had 3 players on that defense drafted. It might have been 2, but they had I forget their names. I have to look it up. They had the good edge rusher. They had a defensive end. I think his name was Wooten. The edge rusher was the guy who was really good. He might have been a second-round pick. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if Owen Popo, their really productive linebacker, like a 3-year starter, he's gone. I don't know if he got drafted or not. I think he did. So there's some pretty good players. I don't think they're going to be as good defensively as they were last year. And they'll be better on offense, but I don't think they're going to be light years better on offense.
He lists his top 10 key players, and I don't know exactly what the ranking is, but there are a couple of interesting names. So Damani Richardson, the senior safeties, his first pick. Bryce Foster, too, of course. Josh DeBerry, the transfer cornerback, is 3. And he seems to think that Josh DeBerry is gonna play a big role.
Okay.
And so that'll be interesting to see. Tony Grimes is on the list. He's number 6 on there. Edrin Cooper, obviously the junior linebacker, will be big. Walter Nolan, one of the staples on the defensive line. He's the first defensive lineman listed. Anaya Smith, obviously, big time coming back. Connor Wigman listed on there at 8. Evan Stewart, and this one's honestly the most interesting to me because kind of not overlooks, but he's got Reuben Owens on there at number 10. So he left off Amari Daniels and somebody who I think is going to be really good, Le'Veon Moss.
Well, they're probably just looking at the 5 stars and saying, hey, this is what this guy we think he's going to do. I think he's going to be running back by committee. Mm-hmm. We'll see how it works until somebody steps up and shows, hey, I need to be the featured back, and it might be Reuben Owens. So I think the 2 guys I think are the most important. Well, importance, not the right word, but can be big factors in success, is Foster.
Yep. This is kind of a a selfish question for me, honestly. Me and you have talked kind of about broadcasting off air, play by play. That's kind of what I want to do. So, you work with Mark Vandermeer, Andre Ware for the Texans. Just when does the prep start for y'all? And, what does that look like, at least on your end?
Well, start with the many things I do. The draft starts to me the year before. I start preparing for a draft year before.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I bring up the draft is we're going to face teams throughout the year where I've done analysis on players that we're going to see on the other side. So I've already been scouting them for a year. So that gives me a leg up. So when, the Texans take on the Panthers, I know Bryce Young, pretty well. I know the things he can do well. And then, in the week leading up to the game, you kind of match up what he did in college with what he's doing with the Panthers. Oh, they're doing this with him. Okay. So it typically, the prep goes on all week. The good thing for me is that Mark and I do radio every single day together. So we're always constantly talking about the game, the previous broadcast, what we could do better, what went wrong in that broadcast, how can we change it. So we're constantly talking, during the week, he and I, about those things. And Dre's role is Dre's got to see what's happening during the game and adjust. And so over the years, because we've been together so long, I kind of know what language they speak, and they know what I speak. And so we know I'm gonna hit on certain things, but Dre's going to hit on other things, and we can kind of bring out the best of one another. So we don't, during the week, we don't talk to Dre a whole lot because we know he's diving into what's going on. But Mark and I are always constantly talking about how do we make the broadcast better, what do we do, what's best, how do we, change on the fly. And the good thing in our case is they can always hear me.
Talking to Caroline Fenton here on the hotline. Will LSU's defense take a step forward in year 2 under Matt House?
So I say with this LSU defense, it's a tale of two defenses, because I'll talk about the front seven. I feel more confident about that front seven, about LSU's defensive line, than any other position group. LSU is bringing back Mason Smith, who missed basically the entirety of this past season. He tore his ACL week 1 against Florida State, but this past year, he was poised for a massive breakout. So you bring him back into the fold. Mekhi Wingo, another defensive lineman, is coming back for his second year, who had a really wonderful, phenomenal first year at LSU, second year in college football. This defensive front, I think, is poised to be one of the best in the SEC, if not in college football. So that's one half of the defensive story. The other half of the defensive story is LSU secondary. LSU had one scholarship corner return this season,
Wow.
and it was a true freshman this past season who had limited reps. So LSU, for the second year in a row, had to dig through the transfer portal just to find enough bodies to play in the secondary. And all of that being said, they're very talented bodies. Denver Harris being one of them, a name that you all are very familiar with. So how does this secondary shake out? Can Matt House pick up these pieces through the transfer portal and make it one cohesive unit for the second year in a row? I don't know the answer to that question. So I feel confident about the defensive line, but a whole lot of question marks about what this secondary can be with so many pieces via the transfer portal.
Jason, late July pool party coming up. I know nothing's probably been finalized just yet, but what can be expected out of that?
I look for a number of, I look for a few surprise visitors, maybe, maybe not surprises the day of, but as names emerge, people might be surprised a little bit by a few names here and there. I look for, some 5 stars. I look for a few 5 stars to be there in attendance. And I look, for it to be another, just, this is one of the big events of the summer. I'm not sure. Sometimes this event, you have a couple commitments, and then sometimes it sets the foundation for what's to come. So either way, it's going to be a big, important weekend, and definitely one A&M fans are going to want to pay attention to.
Are there any under the radar targets that A&M's been keeping a close eye on that maybe aren't, out there, that I guess the big names that we aren't following? Anybody that we should pay attention to?
One that I would watch, cornerback Devin Jordan out of Tulsa Union. He was a offer this spring. I want to say he received his offer in May after Coach Rushing went up there to watch him work, and he visited the 23rd for an unofficial visit. So he came in and took a nice look, but he's one that's really seen his stock rise this spring at cornerback, and somebody to maybe keep an eye on there in that secondary.
All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. Go ahead, like, comment, subscribe. Follow TexAgs Radio and TexAgs on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. And tune in tomorrow for the next rewind. Thanks, y'all.